Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming. And today I wanted to make an announcement. I will be stepping down as Chief of Police for the City of Portland effective October 11th. I want to thank the Mayor for having faith in me and appointing me to this role. I was appointed at a very turbulent time for our city and our Bureau. I'm proud of the accomplishments of the Police Bureau. Over the past 3 years, we've started to rebuild, and we've navigated some really tough times. I also want to thank the members of the Portland Police Bureau for the hard work that they do every day on behalf of our city. And I want to thank the community members that have supported me throughout the last 3 years and throughout my career, for that matter. I will remain at the Police Bureau, and I will remain doing community engagement work, which my heart's always been in, and it's the work I'll continue to do and have always done throughout my career. Personally, for me, it's just a time for transition, and I think it's the right change for the Police Bureau and the city. And now, open it for the Mayor.
Thank you, Chief. I want to start by saying thank you to Chief Lovell. Chuck has my absolute respect and gratitude for a variety of reasons, not the least of which is he stepped forward to lead the Portland Police Bureau during one of the most difficult times in our city's history. He inherited a global pandemic, unprecedented social unrest, the major charter reform to complete an overhaul of the city's form of government, amongst other issues. And he's led the Bureau through all of this with a steady and reliable hand. Chuck and his family have more than earned a respite from one of the toughest jobs in the city. He's been the longest serving chief during my tenure as mayor, I believe 3.5 years. We've spoken many times over the last few months about what the next chapter might look like when Chuck was ready. I'm pleased to have him step into his new role leading the Bureau's community engagement efforts. Chuck's knowledge, compassion, and innate talent for developing relationships will serve the community and the Bureau very well. He has nothing but my support, my admiration, and my gratitude for his service. As I noted last week, we stand on the precipice of a complete overhaul of our city's government, and I take very seriously my responsibility to deliver a functional city to the new mayor and the new city council. With a little over a year left before that handoff takes place, I've decided the best path forward is to appoint an interim chief to take the reins and preserve the incoming mayor's right to recruit and appoint a long-term police chief in 2025. To be done correctly, experience shows us that a full recruitment would take the better part of a year, and it should be aligned with the new mayor's priorities and the communities and with the community's involvement. Fortunately, I can confidently say that I've selected an interim chief who's an experienced leader who knows the Bureau inside and out, having worked in a wide variety of roles at the Portland Police Bureau over a number of years. Someone who understands the importance of our work with the Department of Justice, as well as the need to collaborate with our community to guide an effective police bureau. And somebody who is well-versed regarding not only our city's history, but also its current reality amidst gun violence, homelessness, and behavioral health issues. Bob Day is uniquely qualified to step into this role on day one. Like Chuck, Bob is stepping forward at a very critical and difficult time in history. I've known Bob for many years, and I have no doubt that he can see the Bureau through this pivotal stage in our history. Bob, I want to thank you for your service and for your commitment not only to the Portland Police Bureau, but to the city as well. And with that, I'd like to now welcome Bob to say a few words. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, Mayor. Thanks, Chuck. Good afternoon. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for your service. Thank you for your confidence in me. Thank you for your sacrifice. When my wife Lauren and I were talking about why I would want to come out of retirement, take on this challenge, working closely with the mayor and his commitment to the next 16 months or so of transition was one of those pivotal reasons. I believe in his desire to see the city be successful, and I think there's true opportunity to see that happen. Another thing that excites me is this decision by Chuck to step aside allows for Chuck and I to continue to work together. We've been friends going back many years as he came on the organization after I'd been on for a long time. Chuck was instrumental in a real pivotal change in my understanding around community engagement, particularly around race and African-American police relations. In fact, this morning I was reminded in the early 2000s, Chuck gave me this book, Courageous Conversations About Race. At the time, he was an SRO at Jefferson High School. I was a command officer, but I would come to him and ask for some insight and some understanding and some of the history and the challenges. And he sought out this book that was being used as part of the curriculum in the school at the time, got an extra copy, brought it to me. I still have the note on the front, addressing me by my proper title, encouraging me to take a look at it. Sincerely, Chuck. That's the friendship and the relationship that we have going back almost 20 years. I value him, respect him, and the opportunity for us to step into this space together is really exciting to me. So thank you, Chuck, for your service and sacrifice this time as well. In the early 90s, I was part of the Mounted Patrol Unit. It was a great job, a crazy endeavor to put a horse in downtown Portland, but a great job. And at the time, there was a sergeant who'd been in the unit for many years by the name of Dave Poole. And you might remember that the Mounted Patrol Unit used to be located at Northwest 9th and Lovejoy on the north end of town, which of course looks incredibly different today. But back in those days, we'd get on our horse and we would ride south into the city. Now, I was a young patrol officer, and my mind was simply around enforcement, and the challenge of trying to catch people doing things illegally from horseback really was just too tempting to resist. How could you not see the red-headed, fully dressed uniform on a 1,000-pound brown animal clippity-clopping down the sidewalk and not get away? But I was focused and determined to make sure that I was an effective police officer in the area of enforcement. And so I would ride into Old Town, a natural transition point, and I would focus on making drug arrests. And I had some success. Dave Poole had been in the unit for many years as an officer. He was my sergeant. And Dave used to come farther into downtown, and he would go to O'Brien Square, or he would go to Pioneer Square, and he would sit on his horse and for hours talk to the young people. It was a common hangout place back then, and many of the kids who were seeking services downtown would hang out either at Pioneer Square or O'Brien Square. I was in my 20s. I had no patience or tolerance for those conversations. I'd had a duty to sworn to protect and serve, and I was going to make arrests, and that's what I was doing. But Dave used to say to me, Bob, there's a whole city south of Burnside. There's a whole city south of Burnside. So over time, as I began to realize I needed to step out a little bit, I would come south of Burnside. And inevitably, a week or 2 weeks would go by, and I'd be riding down the sidewalk, and somebody stopped me, usually a young adult, maybe in their 20s. They'd say, hey, is Sergeant Poole working? And I think, well, no, he's on his day off, or maybe he's at Pioneer Square. I said, when you tell him he changed my life. I'm like, okay, so I'd go a little farther, maybe a month or two go by, and somebody'd stop me. They'd say, is Poole around? And I'd say, no, I don't know, maybe he's his day off. Well, you tell him I'm clean and sober. You tell him I'm clean and sober. And he changed my life. And this happened repeatedly throughout my time on the department as I walked around downtown. Now, if you look back on my success in Old Town today, I don't think that I probably achieved the goal, despite my hard work and despite the importance of enforcement, which I believe is a component of what we do in policing. But what I learned in that time period with Sergeant Poole was about humanity, was about context, was about environment, being able to see past just the behavior. And that's something that I've tried to embody throughout my career and clearly has become a priority for me since I retired 4 years ago as I've stepped into multiple places. Now, the obvious question that you're probably all asking, and the reason that my phone is blowing up in my pocket right now, is why in the world I would do this. My golf game is finally under 90. I have been traveling. I've developed a successful speaking and presenting business where I'm opportunity to be in working with C-suite executives around the country and other police leaders. But at my heart, I'm passionate for the city. I'm passionate for the police bureau. And I absolutely am hopeful that Portland can once again become a city and a place a destination for families, business, tourism, community service, grassroots initiatives, the things that we all are so familiar with and remember and long for. I'm hopeful. That might seem like a Pollyannish statement. I want to just clarify what that means to me. And really, everything that I've learned about hope, I've learned from my beautiful wife, Lorna, where I wouldn't be standing here today if it wasn't for her. In 2010, our son was diagnosed with Ewing sarcoma, a rare bone cancer. He fought for 6 years. And he passed away on August 27, 2016. But during that time, we made a commitment to be hopeful. Not naive, not Pollyannish. We knew the difficulty that we faced. Sam knew it, we knew it, our daughter Natalie knew it, but we choose to be hopeful. What does that look like? It means being active. Hope is a behavior. You see, we don't hope for things that we know will happen. Nobody in this room hopes tomorrow's Thursday. We hope for things that feel out of our control. And to manage that, we need to be able to take action. Actions demonstrate our behaviors demonstrate our beliefs. And I am hopeful for this city. I see the challenges. I am not naive, particularly in the area of public safety, whether they be internal or external. Jerome Gutman, in his book, The Anatomy of Hope, says, hope is that elevating feeling we experience when we see in the mind's eye a path to a better future. Hope acknowledges the significant obstacles and the deep pitfalls along that path. True hope has no room for delusion. I don't stand before you with any delusion about the challenge that we're going to be facing in this time of transition. But I do stand before you hopeful. So where do we start? To me, it's simple. We start with the mission of the Portland Police Bureau. The Portland Police Bureau mission statement says the mission of the Portland Police Bureau is to reduce crime and the fear of crime, working with all citizens to preserve life, maintain human rights, protect property, and promote individual responsibility and community commitment. Reducing crime and the fear of crime. Doing that in a collaborative, holistic approach with all of us coming together, because the desire to be safe is innate. It's in every one of us. It doesn't matter if you live in a house or if you live on the street. It doesn't matter if you're black or you're white or you're gay or you're straight or you're male or you're female, however it is innate. We intrinsically want to and need to protect. Our brain does that for us. There's a great book called The Body Keeps the Score by Dr. Vanderkolk. Talks about trauma, talks about the role of the brain to protect us. We naturally want to be safe. So this is an issue that's internal to all of us, and it's an issue that actually binds us all together. Certainly there's discussion to be had about what that looks like and how it all works, and I'm not naive to that. But in my hopeful desire for success for the city and for the police bureau is that we can pull from that innate belief that we want to be safe. And this is the wheelhouse of the Portland Police Bureau. Whether it's significant serious crimes such as homicide and gun violence and traffic accidents, or whether it's disorder, vandalism, minor thefts, it runs the gamut. But I'm going to be challenged us to not only deal with the practicality of what we're facing, but also consider the context. None of us do it alone. An often used phrase is police are the community and the community are the police. I intend to leverage all the resources of PPB, along with city bureaus, county, state, regional partners, federal partners, community activists, business associations, neighborhood associations. This city is not short on people being interested in leaning in. And one of the things that's motivating me and exciting me is the fact that there are many people who have been on the sidelines for a long time that are now leaning in and saying, hey, I want to be a part of this solution. We see that Portland is on the precipice, as the mayor mentioned, and we want to be part of the solution. I'm excited to join with them inside and outside the organization. I'm going to finish with two quotes, and as we spend time together over the coming months, you'll find that I like to use quotes. They encourage me, and there are so many great people who have gone before me that I just need to rely upon. One is from the civil rights leader, James Baldwin, one of my favorite authors. He said, not everything we face can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced. Not everything we face can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced. My commitment to you is a willingness to face the things that need to be changed. I don't know if we're going to be able to change them. That's not the promise I can give you at this moment. But I do have a commitment to be willing to face those changes, those things that need to be changed. And the reason I can share that is because in the time, particularly since I left the organization, as I've stepped into the racial justice, social justice conversation around behavioral health, other intersections with law enforcement, I could take the rest of this time sharing stories that have changed my life in relationship with people from all spectrums that many, many times over the years I've thought I would never be in a room with this person. Now I am, and I'm learning. I'm better for it. The other commitment I have for you, and the other quote, is one that if those who worked in the training division will be familiar with in 2010, when I ran across this from former Green Bay Packers head coach Vince Lombardi, when he said that we will chase perfection. We will chase it relentlessly, knowing all the while we can never attain it, but along the way we shall catch excellence. My desire, my passion is that we will chase perfection, and along the way we will catch excellence. I'm asking you in this role to be hopeful. I'm asking you to be curious, be willing to face the things that need to be changed, and I'm asking you to join me in being safe. Thank you.
Thanks, Bob. All right, we'll open it up to the media. If you guys have any questions, just raise your hand and we'll call on you. I don't think we have a mic like last week, so we'll just do it like this. Courtney, you had something?
Hi, yeah. Chief Lovell, can you talk about what's next? When you didn't say you're retiring, you said you're stepping down. Do you plan continue this work somewhere else?
No, I plan to stay here at the police bureau, work in the chief's office. Bob and I will continue to work closely together, and I'll do work around community engagement for the police bureau, like I've done throughout my whole career. But I'll be in that role going forward after the 11th.
Do you have any specific goals for what that community engagement will look like?
Well, prior to my taking the chief's role, I was in charge of our community services division, and I think there's a need and has always been a desire to really build that capacity out, and I think it'll be work around that. But I'll work closely with the mayor and Chief Day, and we'll kind of figure out kind of what the best path going forward around community engagement is.
All right, Blair?
Yeah, why now? I mean, this is a pressing time in the city. There's an impending city council overhaul. What was your deciding factor?
Yeah, for me, I took this job essentially overnight in June of 2020. And I always knew that I wasn't going to do it for the 7 years remaining I had in my career. So I think it's always been a question of when is the right time. And I think for me, with the mayor's decision not to seek re-election, it gives you a point in time where it's probably wise to reflect and see kind of where you're at. And for me, I just felt like it was time. And like you said, there are a lot of important things going on in this city right now. And I think when you start feeling that way, then it probably is time.
What progress do you feel you were able to make in the last 3 years?
The last 3 years have been challenging. I don't have to tell anyone in this room what the last 3 years have been like, particularly the first 2. But there's a great many good things that have happened at the police bureau and continue to happen today. To come through 2020, to start rebuilding and restaffing. We're right now rolling out our pilot for body-worn camera, which I think is going to be huge for the bureau and the community. We instituted the ABLE program, which I think is going to be very helpful in just internal accountability for one another. And we brought community voice to a lot of really important roles in the police bureau. Our communications director, who's here today. We have a training dean, Dr. Yazzie, and the FitCog. We brought community voice and partnership into our work around gun violence, and I'm really proud of that, and I think it's important. And I think, the good work continues, and we'll continue to do it together as a team, but I think we don't really get the opportunity to talk much about all the great things that have happened over the last 3 years, and that's just a snippet of them. I don't think so. I'll work very closely with Chief Day. We've worked together extensively throughout my career. We're at Northeast Precinct together. We're on the crisis negotiation team together. We're in the Chief's office together. And I don't think it'll slow it down at all. If anything, I think his knowledge and experience and really his connection to downtown and relationships, all these things will really help enhance that.
You mentioned that with willingness to face things that need to be changed, really difficult. I'm curious, what are some clear things that really need to change in the way that Portland addresses these?
Yeah. So the question is, what are some things that I think needs to be changed in addressing policing right now in the city of Portland? So I think we're on a track already around the staffing issue. There's an extensive conversation about the need for more people and more police officers. But I will tell you that there's never been a chief in the United States who's ever said, I got enough cops, I'm good, thanks. So part of it is, for me, is changing the mindset. We need to continue to recruit and continue to develop, and I'm a huge advocate, and I will certainly be happy to receive more support internally for the organization. But I really want to bring a mindset of, how do we manage and maximize the resources that we have in front of us? And once again, doing that in a way that is in conjunction with everyone else. Safety is interesting. It's an interesting mindset. My friend Ron Silver, he worked in the U.S. Attorney's Office Civil Rights Division for a number of years. He said, we've used the police for a number of years to suppress problems that we didn't want to fix. And I really agree with that. We oftentimes defer to law enforcement, whereas safety is far bigger than the police. We know that safety is connected to clean water, to education, to housing, to employment, to well-marked safe streets, et cetera, et cetera. So I absolutely see and understand the importance and the role of policing in the public safety conversation, but I see this as a system. And I want us to be able to see this as a system versus trying to rely upon an individual or a single city bureau to address this.
Mr. Day, do you think an interim chief can rebuild trust in police in the community?
Well, I'd like to think so. But I stood, in my 29 years in the police bureau, I worked for 12 to 13 different chiefs. Every single one of them got up and said the same thing. We're going to restore trust in the community. I think if you look at the changeover in chiefs in the last 3 years, most of the new chiefs say the same thing. I believe trust is foundational to the success of our public safety system. It has to be. When those overhead lights come on and you pull over, you should have a trust and a belief that this is going to be legitimate, that this conversation is going to be safe, it's going to be reasonable, that if I deserve a ticket, I get a ticket, if I don't, I don't. But the whole premise of public safety is based upon that thing of trust, that idea of trust. The difficulty is measuring that. How do we measure that? There are ways to measure it, whether it's community engagement, maybe it's lack of internal affairs complaints, whatever it is. So my 100,000-foot level is trust is essential. It's also the bedrock and the umbrella. But I'm careful to say that, I'm going to be able to build that because I'm not 100% sure if any of us know exactly what that looks like. We have some ideas. You have some, I have some, everybody does because we're individuals. So I'm going to pursue that passionately and, once again, be hopeful that there might be some new ways to discover that.
And just to follow up, on the other side, how do you get officers to buy into your vision when you have, not to say an expiration date, but you have a
Right, right. Expiration date, that's all right. That's certainly a challenge. Once again, let's face something, the reality. There could be members of the organization that will say, we'll just wait them out. We don't have, we'll just wait them out. There's a timeline here. I would argue, and given my experience of almost 30 years in law enforcement, that there are members that do that for permanently appointed chiefs. So the fortunate thing that I have in my favor is I know this is a sprint. And I'm going to be looking for those that are willing to, as I like to use the term often, lean in and do the work. So we're going to be highlighting and seeking those and elevating those and creating opportunity for those that want to do the work. The problems will present themselves. I won't have to go looking for problems. I know that. I won't have to go looking for challenges. Those will present themselves, and that will take up a good portion of my time. But I'm committed to extending that time to really focus on the things that are going well. And my hope is, and my belief is, because I know so many of the men and women in the organization, that they'll respond to that. None of us step into this job and raise our hand and say, yeah, pick me, I'll do this. I hope it sucks. You know, we all step in. If you ever go to a graduation down at DPSST, it's amazing. You should do it. You should go down and just see the excitement of 40 recruits. It'll be 60 soon with the new legislation change. 60 recruits, all accepting the oath for the first time. I went every single time we had a Portland graduation that I was in town from 2010 till I retired. Because you see these young people stand up there, raise their hand, take an oath. This is what I swear to do. I like to take people with me to remind them and remind myself that's what we're about, and that's what I'm going to be appealing to our officers. Max?
I know the mayor said that this would be an interim position until the next mayor can choose. Would you be interested in holding on to this job beyond 2025?
No. Short, direct answer, no. Mrs. Day almost said it, but I said it for her. But what I will say is that in 2025, my job, if I do my job well, we will be positioned that this will be a sought-after role, that people will around the country say, man, that'd be a good job to have, to be the chief of police of Portland. We used to be in that context and in that conversation. And so I want to work collaboratively with the new city manager and the new mayor to be the biggest recruiter and the biggest promoter, to find the best possible fit, whether it's an internal candidate or an external candidate. But I got too much invested in golf lessons to just leave it for the next 5 years or however long. So, thank you.
All right, yeah.
Question for the mayor. You don't mind?
Not at all.
With the transition to a new government, new form of government, of course, and the idea that maybe the mayor's office will take charge of all the bureaus, will we see more of these kind of changes when it comes to that?
Could you be more specific? I'm not sure I understand.
So if we're seeing a transition with the chief stepping down,
Right.
as we move to your office taking charge of all the bureaus, are there other plans or are there other thoughts of that kind of thing going on?
I am not going to tell you today that we have specific plans around transitioning senior leadership in or out. That's not on the table at this point. This is a very specific circumstance related to the chief. But I will tell you, as we shift from the current commission form of government to the city administrator form of government, there will probably be some bureau directors and others who will decide it's a good time to transition out. But I can tell you, honestly, at this moment, I'm not aware of anybody who plans to transition out. I'd just be surprised if nobody did.
Okay, and I apologize. If this approved, was it?
No, not at all. Yeah.
If this was the first step, and we would
No, this is completely separate from the new form of government decision. The only way that the transition from one form of government to another had an impact here was on my decision to not do a full search for a permanent replacement for Chuck Lovell, but to instead appoint an interim. By the time we get to 2025, we'll know exactly how the new form of government operates. We will be ready to do a turnkey with that form of government to the new mayor, the new city commissioners, and I believe, frankly, it'll be easier to recruit a full-time police chief, and also just given the time commitment when I appointed Chief Outlaw, Danielle Outlaw, to be police chief. That was after an exhaustive national search, and it took the better part of a year to conduct that search, putting out the notification, collecting the applications, engaging with community panels and others around the ultimate decision, vetting the finalist to make sure that there wasn't anything we needed to know about that hadn't been disclosed, better part of a year. And I think it would be very unfair for me to select a permanent chief for whoever the new mayor is. I think they need to pick their own public safety team. Thank you for the question. It's a good question. Thank you.
Right, Alex, a follow-up to what you were just saying.
Yeah, sure.
I'm curious, you said it will be easier to recruit a chief in the new government. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, I think for all of our senior level leadership positions in the city, having the new form of government more clearly defined and having certainty for the bureau directors, including the police chief, in terms of how they work in that new form of government is going to be very important. In this day and age, you want to make sure that people are as clear and certain about what the role is that they're getting into it'll just be easier for us to recruit knowing what that is. And by the way, that goes for all the bureau director positions. It goes for the city administrator position. It goes for the deputy city administrator positions. And quite frankly, it goes for the city council and the mayor as well. Understanding what the job is that they will actually be doing will help us to be more stable in terms of our recruitments. Thank you.
All right, let's wrap it up there.